why I am continuing with the sugar diet. I'm Mark Bell, and this morning I weighed 210 pounds. To knock off these next 10 pounds to get myself to my goal of 200 pounds, I'm going to continue to utilize the sugar diet. When I was sugar dieting, I noticed that there was something interesting about lowering the protein. And I can't think of anything that I hate more than lowering protein, or the idea of lowering protein. However, it also seemed like it's pretty effective. And it seems like it's pretty effective at not just pulling weight off the body, but pulling body fat off the body. I know that some of you were critical about me talking about losing weight, and I would continually say losing weight instead of losing fat. And one of the reasons why I mention that often is because it's hard to tell if you're losing fat, and I don't want to be a lying son of a bitch to you guys. I want to be able to spit the truth to you as much as I possibly can. However, I think that when we go to lower amounts of protein, we're not all of a sudden just going to ravenously lose a bunch of muscle mass. We could if we lowered our protein to a crazy, crazy amount. And when I was sugar dieting, there were aspects of the diet where I did sugar fasting for many days in a row, where I definitely was in a protein deficit. I definitely was in a spot that maybe didn't make sense for me in terms of trying to have really good body composition. And so I could look back at that and learn from that mistake and say, maybe I did that, maybe I flew a little too close to the sun on some of those. But I have a new protocol that I'm working on, and some of the stuff that's out there from Joe Binley, Joe English, he put a book out on the sugar diet, and he has a protocol that he does like a 6-day thing. I'm doing something very similar. It's going to be like 5 or 6 days, and then on the 5th or 6th day or so, or 7th day, I'm going to eat a little bit more protein. But the whole time I'm going to be having about 100 grams of protein each day anyway. I weigh 210, as I mentioned, so 100 grams of protein is not just chump change. It's not just something to completely be dismissive of. There are some attributes to this diet that I am not going to talk about just yet. I want to make sure everything works, and I want the results. If I'm able to get the results that I'm looking for, then I will share more information with you guys on exactly how I'm locking this in. But the basics of it for now are, some of my protein is coming from the fruits and the vegetables that I'm consuming, in addition to collagen protein. In addition to that, I'm having some glycine, and if you wanted to, you can also throw in a little bit of amino acids or something like that if you wanted to add what the hell is the amino acid I'm thinking of? Leucine. There we go. Almost completely slipped my mind. You could add a little bit of leucine like post-workout if you really wanted to try to make sure that you're not going to lose any muscle mass. But again, 100 grams of protein per day, and then also having like a refeed or something like that on day 6 and 7. Anyway, what I'm looking to do with this is just to get completely diced, completely shredded. And I think this is the way to go. I think that this is the move. There's a couple things going on when it comes to sugar fasting and sugar dieting. Number one thing that I like to think about is that whenever you're eating your carbohydrates, whenever you're having natty carbs, whether it's fruit, rice, potatoes, and so forth, these are awesome opportunities to have carbohydrates, to have a good energy source in the body without consuming any fat. Oftentimes when we have protein, the protein is almost always accompanied by some fat. When we have vegetables, the vegetables are also another opportunity to have a fat-free meal. In the case of things like non-fat yogurt and some of these other more kind of modern conveniences, egg whites and things like that, these are also opportunities to eat things that have, in this case with yogurt and egg whites, have an opportunity to eat something that's very, very lean, or shrimp or scallops, to eat things that are very lean, that are mainly just protein derived, but also don't have any fat accompanied by them. And in this case, what I'm doing with sugar dieting is I'm utilizing a lot of foods that are absence of fat, trying to keep the fat calories really, really low. And in this case, probably for the next 5, 6, 7 days, the fat percentage will probably be, it'll probably be like 10%, because I am eating some fish. I'm eating a little bit of salmon, and there's a few other things kind of chucked in there. But this is the route for me right now. And I think that a lot of things have happened with sugar fasting. It came in and it kind of just went flying out the other side. And it didn't stick for everybody. But for some people, there's some attributes of the diet that did stick. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? There's no reason to leave this on the side of the road like roadkill. There are some really cool attributes to the sugar diet. Some of the things that we originally believed about sugar fasting and sugar dieting, they still exist. They're still there. Can you take it too far with like candy and like dumping a bunch of sugar on stuff? Sure. But can you also learn from that? And can you also still utilize that? I think some of the ideas that are out there right now, I think it's like, why not just continue to refine this? Like there's more here. There's more to it than meets the eye. Switching over to a bodybuilding diet, I think, is convenient, and I think it makes a lot of sense because there's a little less like guessing going on. There's a little less of like, oh, let's kind of see what happens. But this is an experiment, and I love experimentation. So I'm going to continue to ride with this, and as I continue to learn more about it, I'm going to continue to share more information with you guys. I also have a couple other things that I'm working on. And I'm working on some things in a way that I have never really worked on them before. I have a sleep protocol that I'm working on. I'm really trying to attack the sleep thing, because if I don't get my sleep, if I don't get 6 to 7 hours of good sleep, it makes everything else kind of all for naught, and it makes it very hard and very difficult to stay lean. Part of the reason why I got so lean as soon as I came back from my trip is I did a little bit better job sleeping on the plane on the way back from Ireland, Scotland, which I was there for about 2 weeks. As soon as I got home, I was like, I need a reset. So I went to bed, and then I was like, tomorrow I'm going to take a nap. And usually I go right back to work. Usually I call up Ryan, I'm like, hey, let's film. I was like, let's not do that. So I went like 2 or 3 days in a row of sleeping or being in bed for 7 hours, and then also taking around 3-hour naps each day. And as soon as I did that, my weight, when I came back, which, it was a little bit more in the evening time, I was like 218, but I went right from 218 to 210. And it shows you the importance of sleep. It's not like sleep's gonna pull 8, 10 pounds off everybody. But if you don't have your sleep, you're walking around with your stress hormones kind of cranked, and it's just easier to hold more body fat. It's easier to hold more water. Something I noticed for myself is that when I'm relaxed and when I feel good, I'll have more veins and stuff like that in my calves. That's a good indication. When I wake up in the morning, if my calves are lean, then that usually means I got some good sleep. If they're kind of dull and there's no veins running through them, my body's just covered in like a little bit of inflammation. It's almost like a little film of like water being over top of everything. You don't see the same cuts. You don't see the same sharpness. So what is the diet that I'm actually going to be doing? Why don't I just tell you guys flat out, right? Well, I'm going to be eating a lot of fruit. I'm going to have a lot of fruit juice. I'm probably going to have some smoothies. I'm going to be eating a lot of rice and a lot of potatoes. There won't be, for the next handful of days, and I'm going to cycle this a couple of times through. So every 6th day, every 5th day, 6th day, something like that, I'm going to have these protein refeeds. When I have these protein refeeds, those are going to look like a standard bodybuilding day. Just like rice and steak over and over again. For me, it's going to be steak. I don't really need to eat chicken breast because I have certified Piedmontese beef. If you want to use my code, Mark Bell, 25% off and free shipping. But when you use Piedmontese beef and you have the flat irons and you have the sirloin and the tri-tip and some of these things, they have next to no fat in them. So you don't have to just only eat chicken, which is kind of nice because chicken is valuable. Chicken has some cool stuff in it, but grass-fed, grass-finished beef is going to have a little bit more nutrients, a little bit more B vitamins and stuff like that. And so I personally would rather eat steak. The other thing I'll do sometimes, 99% lean ground turkey. Sometimes I'll mix that with 93.7 lean ground beef. Again, certified Piedmontese, because it's grass-fed, grass-finished, regenerative agriculture. I back those guys up all the way. They back me up, and it works out really good. What I'll do is I'll actually mix that with tomato sauce. If you get canned tomato sauce, there's no fat in it. Dump that in there, mix that together. It's absolutely amazing. And if you want, you can have some pasta. Go ahead and have some pasta. I've been eating pasta a couple times a week. I do gain a little weight from it. I don't know if it's like the gluten or whatever it is, but I don't really worry about it. It just tastes good, and it's a nice meal. I'll eat a little bit of sourdough here and there, but not a lot. I am eating cereal. Cereal's great post-workout. I'll probably have some cereal when I get done here today, even though I didn't work out that much today, but probably use a little boost of carbohydrates anyway. That's mainly how I'm going to be eating. A lot of rice and grinds. That's a company that I use. That's a brand that I use. Basically, it's just like small kind of fine rice that's like a rice cereal. You throw it in the microwave or throw it on your stovetop, heat it up. Tastes delicious, and I just like the product. The product's real clean, digests real smoothly. Honey, maple syrup, still some table sugar here and there. You know, table sugar and some of these things, you're just like kind of hearing a lot of difference of opinion on, you know, whether those are good or bad, or like how should you use those. One of the cool things about sugar, and one of the cool things about a thing like a rice cake or something like that, is that it's really rare to know anyone that has a problem like digesting like a rice cake. It's really rare to know anyone that has a problem digesting sugar, just straight sugar. Now, I'm not talking tons and tons of sugar, because if you have tons and tons of sugar, if you have tons and tons of candy or something, you could feel nauseous, you could feel sick. And it's kind of obvious, you know, use your head. But I'm talking about just straight table sugar. If you put table sugar in water, you know, put a scoop or two in some water and mix it up, maybe throw some lemon in there, it digests super smooth, super easy. I mean, I know people that sometimes have energy drinks and they're like, oh man, it kills my stomach. And those are almost always the energy drinks that don't have any carbohydrates in them, because the artificial sweeteners are getting people, and some of the bubbles and some of the other stuff, and it really bothers someone's stomach. I know people that will have sometimes trouble with their stomach. They'll end up getting kind of like bubble guts just from chewing bubble gum. But again, it's usually the bubble gum that doesn't have sugar in it. So if you get the stuff that has sugar in it, it's usually easier to digest, interestingly enough. And a lot of these foods that are out there, a lot of these like low carb foods, are full of things that usually have quite a bit of fiber in them, which is kind of cool because they make these things taste good, they make these things taste sweet, but it also is hard to digest. Those things take a lot longer to digest. And so straight sugar can be something that's awesome to digest. Getting regular Gatorade. Regular Gatorade for almost everybody is like super easy to digest. It's one of the reasons why it's like such a popular brand and such a popular product. So those are the general foods that I'm going to be eating in a given day. Probably only about one serving of fish each day, maybe two tops. And it's usually going to be pink salmon. Pink salmon has EPA and DHA in it, has omega-3 fatty acids, but also isn't really, really high in fat. I'll also probably have mackerel here and there. I like canned stuff. People probably think that's gross. They'd probably rather get fresh or whatever, but I find canned just to be super convenient. Canned mackerel, you just dump a little salt in there and you already have like a meal. Mackerel is really nice, but it is pretty high in fat. I'm also using my little trick of utilizing cod liver. Cod livers are awesome. They just come in like a little can, and one can of cod liver can have like up to 32 grams of fat. So it's a lot of fat, but keep in mind, I'm going to be eating some of these things. I'm only going to be eating some of these things like once per day. So I might have anywhere between, at the maximum, I'd have like maybe 50 grams of fat in a day. That would be on the higher end. And, keep in mind my calories are probably, 35 or 4,000. I don't count or track them, but that's probably where they're like ending up. So might represent 15% of my diet, depending on the day, depending on the week, and depending on how often I use those cod livers, because again, the pink salmon is pretty lean. So that's what I'm gonna be rolling with. I'm excited to, try to get my sleep squared away. I'll share more info with you guys as much as I can as I move forward with that. It's all stuff I've done before. It's all stuff I've tried before, but I want to give it another go. I still wake up pretty often in the middle of the night and use the bathroom, and I'd like to just try to remedy that, try to figure out like what the hell's going on with that. And then as I fix some of these things, I'd love to be able to, communicate to you guys. My last blood work that I got done, my vitamin D levels were at 50. Now, again, keep in mind, for some reason, it takes like 4,000 or 5,000 years for me to ever get my blood work back. So my blood work was from like around 4 months ago. And 4 months ago in California, it was a little harder to get any sort of UV. By being outside, the UV was never really high. So anyway, I was outside a lot, but my vitamin D levels naturally, without taking a vitamin D supplement, were at 50. Now I'm taking 50,000 IUs a day of vitamin D, trying to really bring that up and just see what happened. And like I said, I've done this before. Like I've been taking vitamin D supplementation. I started doing that probably 10 years ago and started kind of messing around with some of that. At some point, I was like, oh, it's kind of cool because I'm not getting sick and so forth. But I did get sick recently, but I just started the vitamin D super recently as well. I don't even know if I've had time to take. But anyway, I stopped doing it years ago because I was like, I don't really know if I'm noticing much of a difference. And the more that I thought about it, the more I was like, I don't even know if it really makes sense to take vitamin D. Why not just go get it from the sun? And in talking with, David Herrera and talking to other people that are experts with the sun and stuff, they're like, just try to be outside. And they said, hey, it's okay for your vitamin D levels to go up and down. They're supposed to. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I also think that I'm somebody that may have ran into some leptin resistance along the way. And I think that might have been something that happened to me when I gained all that weight and I was powerlifting for years and years and years, weighing upwards, of 290 pounds all the way up to 330 pounds. And I think I messed up. I think I destroyed my circadian clock in some way, especially the way that I did it, because I usually would eat in the middle of the night or I'd eat, really late at night and stuff like that. And that's when I really started packing the weight on. And so for some reason, I don't know, it's got me kind of flipped around. I do think it is the problem. I've had David Herrera and now another person bringing this to my attention. I don't really have any actual proof that I have leptin resistance, but these vitamin D levels are supposed to help. I'm trying to get my vitamin D up to 120 to 140. I'll get more blood work done probably in the next couple of weeks or months and see what's up with my blood work and see if I was able to alter that. But one of the things that's supposed to happen is it's supposed to help with all kinds of stuff. It's supposed to help with just like systemic inflammation, but in addition to that, it's supposed to be able to assist with my sleep along with magnesium and all the other things. And I know you guys are probably going to suggest a lot of stuff. And trust me, I've done it all, I've been doing it all, and it's probably part of this protocol because this protocol is intensive. There was like 20 different things on the list. And I will share that with you guys, but I'm not going to share anything until it works. So I don't like sharing shit with you guys until I find something that actually works. And that's how the sugar diet exploded. The sugar diet exploded. Cole Robinson started talking about it. I was like, this is pretty interesting. I started doing it. I did it for about 3 months before I ever said anything about it. And then as soon as it started working really well for me, I was like, you know what? It's time to share this information out with other people. And that's why here I am still utilizing sugar fasting, sugar diet. I think it is revolutionary. I do think that it's something that is going to stick around. I don't know if it's necessary to perpetually, be on the sugar diet. That remains to be seen. Like, only time will be able to tell that. But I think it's effective. I like doing it. I love fruit. And especially seasonally, it seems to make sense. When the summertime starts to roll around, the blueberries start coming out and stuff like that, I'll probably be doing this every year. Will I be doing it, all winter and everything like that? I don't know. I'll probably bounce around a little bit to some different diets, because why not use some different strategies for a little while? Why not open up your palate a little bit and have some whole eggs? Why not have a keto brick here and there? Why not, especially because I'm to the point where I'm getting lean enough to where I can kind of choose whatever style diet I want. And as long as I can maintain my muscle and maintain my energy, what else do I really need? Anyway, if you got questions, hopefully I got some answers. Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.